All right, my name is Aiden Libby, and I will be the prosecutor for the state of Mississippi against Mr. Dowda. I'm going to start off with going with the facts and the summary of the case. On November 12, 1996, Michael Blaine Dowda was working in Orlando, Florida, when he received a message that his girlfriend, Clarissa Lynn Jarrett, was going to a concert with her sister in Gulf Shores, Alabama. Dowda apparently drove nonstop from Orlando to the home he shared with Jarrett in Mississippi prior to leaving Florida. However, he obtained a .30-80 semi-automatic handgun. He arrived in Mississippi at approximately 2 o'clock in the morning on November 13, 1996. His girlfriend arrived 4 hours later. Dowda confronted her concerning her whereabouts, and an argument ensued. Dowda then threatened to kill himself with a gun. Dowda did not kill himself, but instead removed the clip from the gun, placed the gun in the closet, and resumed arguing with his girlfriend. At some point in the argument, she admitted to having sexual relationships with other men. Dowda then took the gun from the closet, pressed the gun tightly against her head, and pulled the trigger, killing her instantly. Dowda apparently believed the gun to be unloaded because he had removed the clip from the gun. Instead, one bullet remained in the chamber ready to be fired and killed her instantly. He later buried her body and was found later on. Mr. Dowda was then returned to Mississippi, since he fled, where he was indicted for murder. Dowda waived his right to a jury trial, opting for a bench trial. Following the trial, Dowda was found guilty on murder and sentenced to life imprisonment. And then going from the summary of that, I'd like to go into my first fact for the reason why he should be charged with murder and why it's proportional. Within Mississippi law, I'd like to state in the case of 1996 with Mr. Dowda to 2010 to 2019, Mississippi law has remained static in holding crimes against the persons with a deprived heart as murder. And I also like to go into the definition of that within the Mississippi Code 97.3-19, which states that the killing of a human being with the authority of law by any means or in any manner shall be murder in the following cases: when done in the commission of an act eminently dangerous to others in evincing a depraved heart, regardless of human life, although without any premeditated design, to affect the death of any particular individual. But I also like to state with this case is that I do believe that this was a premeditated design, and here's why. Going back into the summary, I'd like to state prior to leaving Florida, when when he left, he obtained the .30-80 semi-automatic handgun, and I'd like the jury to recognize this: is that for what reason why a man would buy a handgun before going up and then killing someone, out of even if it was out of the idea that if it was not premeditated, he still did buy a semi-automatic handgun, either for the reasons that I will state. When he arrived in Mississippi at approximately 2 o'clock in the morning on November 13th, 1996, his girlfriend arrived some 4 hours later. And here's the very pinnacle part of this case, is that the time frame is very important because this dictates the intent, and his intent was shown through his actions. He had a 4-hour period of contemplation of when she arrived. He went involuntarily, then confronted her concerning her whereabouts, in the argument ensued, and also having the handgun prior still. He then, from that point, Dowda then took the gun, he then, at some point in the argument, she admitted to having sexual relationships with the other men. And I'd like to also state that there is some form of premeditation for him knowing that she was having other sexual relationships with men, for the reason of why would he buy a handgun in order to signify a purposeful payback, in which was portrayed by his premeditated actions. And from that point, he then took the gun from the closet when previous he said he was going to kill himself, and then stated that he unloaded it when threatening to kill himself. But I'd also like to say is that how could anybody know that he unloaded the gun and then put it in the side room? Because there's no other eyewitnesses to say that he actually did that. We're just going off the basis that of his true moral character, that he did say it was uh, uh, a false way of killing. He did not mean it at all. But I'd also like to go into the point that he, when in the moment realized that he got his confirmation, is that he went back in, and we don't know if the gun was loaded or unloaded. I'd like to state that too, is that he went in, he pressed the gun tightly against her head and pulled the trigger, killing her instantly. And I'd like to conclude with that statement is that by the state of Mississippi, with our rights within our Constitution from the 10th Amendment, is that we have every right to prosecute him with first-degree murder. And I conclude that Mr. Dowda should be prosecuted with for the murder of Carissa Lynn Jarrett.
My name is Fran Bettino, and I will be doing the defense on this case. The prosecution did a great job in summarizing the facts of this case. The fact that he was, and how we was just stating that he got that text when he was in Florida and drove nonstop to Mississippi, which, depending on the actual distance, it is a long drive. It is tiring. It is, and especially for such an emotional, distraught type of person that is kind of has doubts if their significant other is being loyal or not. They have plenty of time to kind of think of many things of like, is this true? Is this not true? But there's no point in time signifying that he already knew that she slept with another man. So therefore he didn't want to exactly get the confirmation because he already knew and just wanted to hear it from Miss Jarrett. But he just wanted to know of her whereabouts. Dowda, like in the facts state, Dowda confronted Jarrett concerning her whereabouts, and an argument ensued. So the argument was about where she was, not if she has slept or didn't sleep with another man. Miss Jarrett herself stated that she did sleep with another man. He just wanted to know where she was, not if she slept with another man or not. At this point, I'm pretty, we could safely assume that they've had many issues at this point for him to be arguing so much and continuing to argue of like where she was in these types of situations. So this wasn't a stable type of argument between two stable people that had a good foundation for a relationship. As he stated in the facts that prior to leaving Florida, he did obtain a .380 semi-automatic handgun. It doesn't state if he had any guns prior to this, but we could safely assume that this could be his first gun, or even if he did have some type of experience with other types of guns, it could have this gun to himself is new. He just bought it the day before when he left in Florida. He maybe didn't have the correct knowledge on how to properly unload a gun to make it completely safe. And especially when in time of argument, in time of distraughtness of what's trying to figure out of what's going on within their relationship, he's not exactly thinking things clearly and taking every step necessary to unload the gun safety. He just kind of knew the basics of, okay, I'm going to empty the clip and therefore the gun is no longer loaded. And as he stated, that he threatened to kill himself so easily, the gun that he purchased was intended for himself, not for Miss Jarrett. If it was intended for Miss Jarrett, I believe that he would have immediately confronted her and even just shown her the gun to cause fear, to, in a sense, encourage her to admit that she was sleeping with other men, and once she did, then kill her. This could have gone much faster if he already knew that she was sleeping with another man, and he just wanted to hear it and then just kill her. But instead, he was trying to figure out where she was, what was going on. As said, and even when he did get caught in Vegas, he gave a statement to the Las Vegas police department admitting that he, in his role in Miss Jarrett's death, and directed the police exactly to where her body was buried. If this was premeditated and had some type of forethought of that he was already going to plan to kill her, then why would he immediately try to give the location of the body to the police when her body was not found yet? In most cases, courts usually do not prosecute someone without the actual body of the person being found. It's rare for someone to be convicted for murder or from something of that sense if there's no body to ensure that that person is in fact dead. But he immediately confessed to killing her to get rid of the guilt of doing this to her. It's not the type of person to pre-plan this and try to get away with murder. Yes, I will have to agree that putting the gun against her head and pulling the trigger is an extreme disregard to human life. But that doesn't mean that he was intending to kill her. And how Mississippi Code 93-3-19, as he stated, when done in commission of an act immediately dangerous to others and evincing a depraved heart, regardless of human life, although without premeditation design to effect the death of any particular individual. When there's no premeditation to a crime, to a murder, it's manslaughter. It's not, there's no sign of him already planning and anything. And just kind of going back to Mr. Dowda's mental state, he was extremely tired. And as he said, he didn't sleep for the time that he was waiting for her, but that doesn't mean that he chose not to sleep. He could have had insomnia during that time because he was too distraught to have some type of peace to be able to go to sleep. It could have been that he wanted to go to sleep.
From that point,
sorry?
I would like to argue that one point that you did just say there. From the point regarding the fact that he had that time period and then he might have not had any actual sufficient sleep or cognitive control. But I would still like to reiterate the point that why would a reasonable person of character would actually go out and buy a handgun the day before they would consider to shoot someone, whether there was a significant other or someone of which they have some form of relationship with. And with that point is that the moral character of this person, of Mr. Dowda, is that when the trial court, as a matter of fact, that Dowda had removed the ammunition from the clip and believed to be unloaded when the fatal shot was fired, I would like to state that the court could not actually verify that if he did that or if he did that or if he didn't. So in the regards of the fact that the person or Mr. Dowda, when in the argument with his girlfriend, saying that he's going to kill himself, and then from that point when he had the confirmation in the premeditated delivery because of the handgun that he bought the day before heading up and actually confronting her, which I don't believe any reasonable person would think of doing, even if they're going to meet their significant other or a friend or a family member. But from that point is that the court cannot actually verify that if he did or if he didn't take out the clip of the gun, because there also, I want to reiterate that there's no other eyewitness to state that if he did. And I'm saying that we are going off the basis of a man who just killed someone. The man who just murdered.
Exactly, but someone that just killed someone, that when he immediately got arrested, not from the Mississippi police, but from Las Vegas police, immediately admitted to killing her, and to letting them know about her whereabouts. His moral compass, he couldn't take it anymore. He immediately confessed to doing it and gave the location of her body. Mm-hmm. So therefore, if he didn't have that moral compass, why would he not, it wasn't so much of like, okay, yeah, he just murdered someone. And that's kind of why it wouldn't be considered reasonable. It's just many factors, including everything going on.
True. The fact that he did kill her, but it does not mean it. A killer can also have some form of guilt after doing something or after committing a murder in this scenario. And from that point, when he did commit that murder and then later he buried the body and then confessed to doing it, it still doesn't verify that if he had in the time and with the contemplation of the 4 hours that he was waiting for her, still had premeditated and deliberated thoughts of doing such act. The verification of the fact that he did come out and say that yes, I am guilty, but the fact is, there is no verification of knowing if he had any premeditated or if he did have premeditated and deliberated thoughts because of that point when it's going back to the handgun and when buying it, going up to visit her in that point of being, because he might have had thoughts of doubt whether she or was having any sexual relationships with any other men. And
he did not visit her. They both shared the home. It wasn't that he decided to go visit her and to seek her out. They both shared that home. So it's not that he intentionally tried to seek her out and to try to get that information out of her. If his intent was to get the information out of her, he could have easily brandished the gun to show some type of force to make her fear for something, therefore making her more vulnerable to actually admitting something.
And that's very true. And I believe that will be the end of our conversation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.